by Peter Martin.
Hello, I'm Peter Martin, founder of Peach 2020, the international network for senior executives, entrepreneurs and influencers from across the hospitality sector. Welcome to the latest in our new series of Top Table podcasts, which will see me in conversation with some of the biggest names in the out-of-home food and drink business, the real movers and shakers, picking up on the issues shaping the future of our industry. As we emerge from the past 2 years of what's been effective hibernation for businesses, the focus for many is turning to growth and deals. And of course, some have not waited until the end of the pandemic to flag their ambitions. Last October, indeed, the fast casual restaurant brand Tortilla Mexican Grill IPO'd on AIM on the London Stock Exchange, raising funds to further expand its 62 restaurant sites in the UK and Middle East, among other things. The float also brought together a new management pairing at the top of the organisation, with former Wagamama CEO Emma Woods coming into the business as chair to join incumbent chief executive Richard Morris. So I'm absolutely delighted to say that we have both of them with us today for this Top Table podcast to talk about the float, growth, the opportunities for Tortilla's style of operation, and perhaps most importantly, how they are now working together to achieve those ambitions. You know, the big question we want to ask is, how's the partnership progressing? So Emma, Richard, welcome to Top Table. So let's start with that last point. How is the working relationship going, flourishing? Richard, how's your chairman doing?
Like I'm in marriage guidance here, being in front of Emma as well. So, but it's relatively early days, if I'm honest. I mean, we vaguely knew each other pre Emma joining the board, so we were aware. And had spent actually one of the events dinners. We sat next to each other and compared notes on running a restaurant chain and having a load of kids running around at the same time. And so we got on very well. And I think as we were starting to move through the process of looking at the float, we were obviously keen to look at people of the caliber of Emma to come and join us. And we got to the point. And so far so good, I'd say. I think relationships flourished is the word you used, and I think so far we've worked well.
Now, Emma, I mean, you've been a non-exec at Gym Group for a while now, and others places as well. But I mean, how's the transition to the chairman's role gone?
Well, chairwoman, may I say that?
Well, I was going to ask that. I mean, we do get into that. I mean, how do you like to be called? Chairwoman, chair?
Yeah. We're definitely not chairman.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, I think Rich and I were talking about it this morning. I mean, I think it takes a little bit of time. It's a different role. It's a much more hands-off role. And also you need to, I think there's a danger in our sector that you understand the business because you've worked in the sector, but each business is very different. And I think I'm now, it's about 6 months, Richard, we've been working together. Spent a lot of time with the team just and got better at just watching. And I think I'm in a much better position to contribute now than I was when when I went into the role, because I was just coming out of an executive role. But I'm absolutely loving it. Rich's team is fantastic. And the business is fantastic, and there's so much potential.
And so next question really, how have you found Tortilla and Richard and his team? I mean, how have you gelled? Are there sort of similarities with what you've been used to back in Wagamama days or Pizza Express or Merlin?
Well, the reason I was so keen to get involved is that it's got a backbone of food, of fresh food, which is true for the other businesses I love, like Wagamama, and so you go in. One of the first things that Richard encouraged me to do was to go and work a back of house shift and make the guac, and it's not an easy job to make that delicious guacamole every morning. Yes. So it's also got a kind of wonderful culture, which again is very similar to great businesses like Wags and Pizza Express. Absolutely wonderful culture. I think the challenge of coming in as a chair, though, is that this is a business that has been extraordinarily well run for a number of years and had a very good board. So, I think, am I right, Richard, that Robin was the chair at one stage, Robin Rowland?
Yeah.
And then Paul Campbell was the chair. So one of the challenges coming in as a new person is that this board has been functioning really effectively for a long time. And how do you kind of keep that spirit and not lose any of the great stuff that they have, but move on?
Yeah. So certain amount of pressure on that. But Richard, let's wind back a bit and talk about how the brand has got up to the decision to float. Take us back to those early days, and when you've been there how many years now?
7 and a bit, 7.5. Actually, might be 8 years. I think it is actually. Yes, gosh, I think I might have just missed my anniversary. I think it was 8 years this week or last week. So yeah, God, I can't believe it.
Obviously, a birthday cake coming your way, but yeah.
Well, yeah. Yeah, good question. If I can take you back a little bit before COVID, just to sort of try and set the scene a little bit. It's been quite interesting because we keep talking about ourselves as a business that's been has benefited hugely from a dreadful pandemic, which doesn't sound a particularly nice thing to say. So we have to be quite careful how we word this. But I've always been very keen to preempt that conversation by saying that pre-COVID, we were doing really, really well. Our numbers were very strong. I think January, February of 2020, we were 6-7 percentage points above the Peach Tracker. Our like-for-like was very strong. We'd had a very good November, December. People forget we were coming out of this whole Brexit thing at the time, which had been a mess. And we sort of lurched out of Brexit straight into a pandemic. So all of us in the sector had quite a bumpy road for quite a long time pre-COVID. But we were performing well, so we were very confident. We'd got plenty of plans and ideas of what we wanted to do. This came, it shut us all down for a period of time, and then I remember phoning up my ops director fairly early on in the process, sort of middle of April, so about 3 or 4 weeks after lockdown, and we had a conversation about when do we feel it would be considered to be responsible for us to try and reopen and do some delivery. We sensed that people were becoming slightly tired of the long queues around the supermarkets and very little choice of any other food. But we were also conscious that there was still a lot of fear around about the virus itself. And so we wanted to try and judge the sense of the nation and also of our employees about, listen, if we were to try and reopen a few sites, how would you feel about that? And clearly in hindsight, that was the best decision we made. We got 97% of our staff were like, please, can we reopen? We're so bored. We want to come back to work. We chose our top delivery sites pre-COVID and reopened them first. And of course, it was phenomenal. We were incredibly busy, busier than we anticipated. There were very few businesses on any of the delivery channels. I think probably only 5 guys who continued to trade, I think, all the way through. And so we were able to introduce the brand to an awful lot of people who maybe otherwise wouldn't have tried us. So it's very rare you get an opportunity to steal a march on your competitors because they're closed for 6 to 9 months. But there's no doubt that that's what we did, and the momentum just kept going. And everywhere we reopened busier than we were before. So. Yeah, it was a very good 9-month period for us.
I mean, so looking at the business as it is now, I mean, how are you reopening it? Have you got all your stores open? You are city centre based mainly. How problematic is that, and how is the balance with the delivery side?
Well, actually, our benefit is we're not really city centre based. I mean, we have a few sites in central London, but and 1 or 2 in the centre of other cities. But predominantly our success was done because we weren't city centre and we weren't really so locked into all the office people like so many of our competitors were. So we reopened all the Putneys and the Fulhams and the Hammersmiths and all of those sorts of places because that's where everybody was working and that's where everybody was living. So we were feeding people at lunchtime and in the evening, whereas pre-COVID it was predominantly only in the evenings. So sadly, like most people, central London really was non-existent for us. We had a site in Leadenhall Market, Soho, Russell Square, that we really didn't open. We have recently reopened them and they are starting to grow as we see more and more people coming into central London. The other thing we did extremely well is very, very early on we engaged with the landlords, and we didn't engage with them in a kind of aggressive, you need to do this for us sort of conversation, or we're going to CVA kind of conversation. We were very open with them. We said we're a good business. We've got a strong balance sheet. We're able to ride this, but we will need your help. We will need your support, and wherever possible, we will turn the lights on and we will trade. But none of us know how long this is going on for, and we'd like there to be some commitment to help.
So, Richard, you were bringing the business back into operation. Delivery was going well. You're having great conversations, good constructive conversations with your landlords. But then about the decision to float, what drove that, and why are you going down that route?
Well, very good question. We realised that we were a rare commodity in the hospitality sector that had really found a way of dealing with the pandemic well. Our delivery was outstanding. We always knew we had a very good delivered product. We were a pretty big delivery business pre-COVID. We were 18 to 20% of our revenue was delivery. And we knew we had a good product. We focused a lot during COVID on delivery to make sure that we were doing it really, really well. But bear in mind, as a business, we knew delivery was a big part of what we did. So we were quite experienced at it. We've got a product that's very quick, it's very healthy, and it's very well priced. So on the delivery channels, we're not fast food, but we're also not casual dining. So we sit in a really good price point. So we're good value. So all of those things, we knew that coming out of this, we were going to have the ability to take advantage of a property market that we knew was probably going to be a little bit depressed. There were a lot of business that were going to be stuck on the starting grid for a while, rebuilding their balance sheets. So we didn't want to waste that opportunity. And the public market seemed to be a really good way to go. We thought we had a wonderful story. We think we've got a wonderful story, a story that we wanted to tell, and some really good news in a sector that was being, battered from pillar to post. And yet we were sort of really confident that whatever happened, we were going to be somebody that was going to be able to take advantage of it. And because our delivery numbers were good, our takeaway numbers were good, we'd always had good in-house numbers, our price point healthy, all of those appealing areas for the business. We thought, we've got a really good opportunity of telling this story to investors. And obviously we did a couple of these sort of pre-investment meetings just to get a feel for the market. They were very, very positively received. And of course, once we went out, we were oversubscribed. It was a very successful float, and we were very happy to do it. And I will continue to believe that it's a fantastic investment. I think this business has got so many opportunities now, and we're in a position to take advantage of them.
And Emma, so how did you come into that process?
So I started talking to Richard in August, and I think we floated on the start of October. And I mean, because actually, if you probably remember, the markets were pretty, were beginning to get a bit wobbled. And so it was a bit of a race to get our IPO away. And all the heavy lifting had been done by Richard and the team, and myself and another board member that we brought on board called Laurels joined really in the last month. And then the only thing that was that was, I think, helpful was a number of our shareholders of the gym group. And so I think there was probably one conversation in the last week where I sort of chatted to somebody who I knew from another role, and they were very excited about business, but just kind of wanted some reassurance on our ability to sort of scale up our roll-up plans. And obviously, I was able to sort of talk with quite a lot of confidence about that, just because of having sort of met Richard, spent time with the team, and knowing quite a bit about kind of the capability of the team. But I had the credibility to do that, really, not because I was a restaurateur, but because I sat on the gym group board and I talked to him about gym group rollout plans before.
So, I mean, going back, who made the approach to you?
Well, there was a lovely headhunter involved, as there usually is in these processes, and that's right. When you're choosing a chair or choosing anyone on a board, you shouldn't just be doing it because it's your mate, especially when it's a public company. There's got to be a level of diligence involved.
So, but what attracted you to Tortilla, apart from the fresh food?
I mean, it's different. I mean, my children, I always tend to do jobs that my children love, and my son has become completely fixated with Tortilla. And so I thought that's quite interesting. But the other thing is, and you probably remember, Peter, I lived in Mexico for a couple of years, so I've always loved the food, really loved the food, and that's terribly important. And then, you just want to be, if you're going to be an advisor in a business, it's very different to being an executive. You want to be working on a business you believe in, and believe in the leadership, and believe in the ability to grow, and those are big ticks for me.
And Richard, in terms of the skills you saw and in Emma, I mean, what were you looking for in the chair, and how many boxes were ticked with Emma Woods?
Right. Well, where to start? Well, look, Emma's got a fantastic background. Her previous involvement with Merlin was interesting because we'd recently done a deal with Merlin to open in one of their locations. So that was obviously a nice bit of synergy and a nice link. I always saw Wagamama as the lead act in the casual dining business. Having come from TGI Fridays back in the day, where we used to feel that was our world and we were the best. It was interesting to see how that's moved forward. We're all big fans of Wagamama, and subsequently anyone who has involvement in that business comes with great credibility, and Emma was somebody that we felt would be a good fit. I think also for Emma it was a really good opportunity to come and chair her first chair role in a business that she definitely believed in. So it was a really good fit for Emma as well. And also I knew that Emma wasn't going to just come and sit on the board. She was going to be someone who was probably going to challenge me a little bit, become very involved in the business, which is what I wanted. I didn't want somebody who didn't really know or wasn't really too concerned about getting into the nuts and bolts. And whilst Emma realises that she's in an advisory role, she is someone who knows the industry, and the links and the relationships between us are very good. So it was a perfect fit, really, I think, for both parties.
So what's the plan for Tortilla now? What position are you in? You're trading well. I mean, how well are you trading at the moment?
Yeah, I think we've done well. We've traded well. January is a bit grim, but January is always a bit grim. So and possibly more so this year than if it's possible to be than any other years, because it's just this kind of wave of negativity around everything at the moment. But we've always been resilient, and our numbers have always outperformed the sector, and I wouldn't suggest that January is any different from that. We've got a lot of sites lined up for this year. Our strongest pipeline of sites we've probably ever had. Some fantastic locations we're very excited about. So we're going to we'll certainly open more sites this year, bricks and mortar, than we've done before. We've got some great plans around cloud kitchens and looking at relationships with businesses that offer that for us, because obviously it's a great delivered product. Those businesses work incredibly well. And we're also, working closely with SSP, or a big franchise partner here. They're starting to reopen some of their world. There's some other opportunities with them that they want us to take. And we've got some other really good partnerships that we're getting close to confirming, which give us the opportunity of getting our products out there in other areas of the market. Then of course the end thing is potentially, we'll see, but at some stage we would perhaps like to look outside of the UK. We think there's plenty of opportunity here. That's our kind of, as you say, modus operandi. That's the main part of the business. But there's no doubt that it is something that we would look at probably sort of towards the end of the year, see what opportunities there are for us.
So how fast, I suppose the question is, how fast are you going to expand? Obviously, you've got the funding from the proceeds from the float. So how quick? I mean, in terms of new sites, can you put a number on that this year, or you're keeping your cards perhaps a bit closer to your chest on that one?
No, I think it's fairly common knowledge that we're certainly hoping to do 10 bricks and mortar sites and 3 or 4 cloud kitchens. We're well set to do that. There's, we maybe would like to do more, but there's no. We don't want to do a lot more. I'm a bit old school about rollouts. I think it becomes very difficult to open substantially more than that. I think you have to be very careful. You don't lose the culture. You don't lose what the business is all about. The only difference I would see about this business from a casual dining business, and I think Emma's probably starting to realise that now, the time she spends in it, is that this is a very simple model, and it's probably repeatable quicker than perhaps full service restaurants. We've still got a little bit of work to do to kind of nail down some of the systems and process to allow us to speed things up. But certainly I think 10 bricks and mortar, 4 or 5 cloud kitchens, 3 or 4 franchise opportunities, a few over in the Middle East as well. I think, we're looking circa 20 opportunities to get our product out this year. So that feels pretty good to me.
I mean, I think the thing that's really impressive, Peter, about the way Richard's run the business, and Brandon as well. I mean, Brandon's the missing voice on this call, really, is that they have had huge discipline about site selection. They've not closed a site. And so there's a kind of rigor about each site being profitable. And we've just got to be really thoughtful about that as we go forward. So I mean, I think the important thing about this first year is just, then there's a winning formula. We just need to make sure that we sort of, the board support Richard to kind of keep doing that, not sort of try and reinvent anything.
I mean, you've come from bigger companies and bigger brands. And one of the things, certainly at Wagamama, is going into multichannel, omnichannel, and obviously your experience with Merlin was global as well. And obviously they're two parts of the tortilla plan. I mean, what can you bring to the party on that and inside, and how do you see those developing with tortilla?
Well, I mean, what Tortilla already is omnichannel, and it has a really healthy delivery business. I guess the question you're asking is, should it be in retail? I think there's probably a timing for that, but it's probably not now. We need to consolidate the eat-in and the delivery business. Because actually we've, at various points over the last 2 years, Richard's just been running a delivery business, and we want to remind people just how fantastic it is to be in a tortilla. So I think that's the first question. The second question, I don't know the answer to that yet, but one of the things I'm really trying to do is spend time with Richard looking at some of these questions. And we're about to go to the Middle East because Tortilla already has a very successful franchise business in the Middle East, and it'd just be great to see it and see how that's working. I don't know if Richard, you want to talk about that partnership?
Well, there's a couple of things that I think you've brought up, Peter, that I think are going to be sort of game changers for the sector. And Emma's right, the last couple of years we've predominantly been running a delivery and takeaway business, which in itself can cause some challenges because we are fundamentally restaurants. And actually yesterday when we were doing a sort of company conference, and I'd said to a few of the regional guys a while back saying, it's very important we remember that, and we say to our people, and when we're training people, whatever we do, we're restaurants that offer a delivery service. We're not a delivery business with a few seats. And the mindset of that's actually quite challenging. We've got people in our business who've only ever worked in delivery. So the relationship and improving the level of service has got to be a big focus for us. We build lovely restaurants. They're very authentic. They feel good fun. We want people to come and eat in our restaurants. Of course, if they're not going to eat in our restaurants, at least we want them to eat our food. But we've got nice places, so we're dead keen to bring eating in back, and so we're working hard on transferring those skills and understanding that if your delivery printer's going crazy next door to you and you've got customers standing in front of you, how do you deal with that? And we're working on all of those things, and I think that's very important, because if you forget the people that are walking into your business, before you know it, you really are running a delivery business, and that's really not where we're about. So I think that's a valid point. And in terms of the Middle East, they're very experienced at delivery. Delivery was a bigger deal over there before it was here, and it continues to be massive. So we learn a lot from them on delivery and what they do and how they do it. So yes, Emma and I are out there in a couple of weeks to see how they're coming out of this pandemic in Dubai and in Saudi, and we'll take their learnings.
I mean, you're very clear about that culture. You're a restaurant first in the fast casual space. So that comes back to, one of the big issues on board agendas for everybody at the moment is people and where to get them. I mean, between you, perhaps you can both answer. I mean, how are you tackling that people problem, or should I say, how big a problem is it for you guys?
Well, for us, look, it is an issue. There's no doubt it's an issue. But we like so many aspects of all of these challenges in the sector, there's a bit of a standard line from everyone and from Tortilla, is that we're probably better placed than most to deal with the challenges in all various aspects, with supply chain challenges and all these other things. And people's no different. What we have is a phenomenal business with a fantastic product, but we don't need skilled labour to produce it. So we don't need chefs. Now, chefs back in the day when I was running casual dining restaurants were a nightmare to find anyway, and a bit of a challenge to manage, but that's a different issue. We are able to take people off the street, and within a couple of hours we can teach them how to make our kind of world-class guacamole and all our salsas, and so we can add skills to people who don't need them when they arrive. So we're able to attract people of a young age, and that is the market right now. It's a lot more college people, so 17, 18-year-olds. We opened a business in Windsor during lockdown, which has no university. And we opened the business with a load of 17-year-old kids. Now, there are some challenges to that. A few of them struggle with the work ethic, but most of them didn't. And they loved it. And it was their first jobs, and it's been a successful business for us. So I think you've got to know what's out there, and you've got to be able to create an environment that makes you one of the top places that they want to work. We offer great perks. We also don't finish at 1 o'clock in the morning, where you're expecting people to get on a night bus and get home. We finish at sort of 8, 9 o'clock in the evening, so it's safe, flexible hours, free food, lots of perks, and this whole culture around looking after people and making sure that we give them as much fun as we can. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's not been difficult, but it's not been as difficult for us as perhaps it has been for other businesses.
Yeah. So looking back to the next board meeting, Emma, what is going to be the key things on the agenda? People, one of them. What are you focusing on?
Well, I think that one of the things you've got to understand about the board or the board role is that your responsibility is really not an operational responsibility. That's Richard's responsibility. I'm quite pleased about that. Your responsibility is to support Richard, sort of making sure that we're having the right conversations about strategy and the future, and having the right conversations about risk. I think actually being somebody who's a little bit removed from the business, you can get more, you have a different perspective on that. And certainly as a PLC, there's a legal responsibility to do that as well. And then we're really trying to make sure that we support all the new openings as well. So board meetings are good, and we've got to do our first annual report, which is a complete joy. And the question is, how shiny is that? There are kind of mechanical governance things that take up a bit of board time. But it's do you know what? We were talking about it this morning. It's a really lovely group of people, and with quite a bit of a different experience. So we've still got a private equity member on the board who's really shrewd and very committed, and has been there for a while. Brandon's still on the board and brings a huge amount of energy for the business. Lawrence Keane, who runs Hollywood Bowl, or the CFO of Hollywood Bowl's on the board, and he's got a lot of experience in kind of going from the business pre-IPO to a very successfully floated business. It's now been on the market for 5 years. And then Richard, Andy, and myself. So it's actually it's just a nice group of people, and I think, as I said earlier, I think so far so good.
So bring it to a close. Emma, you're enjoying it. Richard, I'm taking it you're fairly enjoying it at the moment, and it's and you do, well, same direction but more energy. Is that a fair way to look at it?
Yeah, I mean, same direction but quicker, and probably taking a little look at outside of what we have done in the past. I think we have got a very flexible business. We didn't talk about our central production kitchen, which gives us massive opportunity for growth, because we're delivering a really consistent product out to 50, 60, 70 sites. So that's why we've got the opportunity to look at various different avenues of getting our food out there. And obviously the other aspect, which Emma has been a big help and will continue to be so, is around the whole ESG thing as a business. We're starting on a journey with that as well. And that, for many in our sector, is going to become a big part of how we operate in the years to come. So that's a big project that we're starting to undertake now. So it is very exciting. I think we've got it's nice to know you're sitting in a business that really is able to adapt to whatever the market throws at it. We are probably about to go into some tough times. Inflation is going to be high. People do tend to trade down a little bit when things are tough. And again, that probably works in our favour. So I'm glad to be sitting here. That's absolutely true.
That's good. Well, thank you both for your time, and I'm sure the industry, as well as the stock market and your investors, will be watching your progress very closely indeed. So not that you'll need it, but best of luck, and more importantly, thank you for joining us on this Top Table podcast. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Emma.
Thank you.
Bye.
Well, thank you again to Emma and Richard for sharing their experiences of taking Tortilla to the market and their plans for the future of the brand. And to remind you, this series of podcasts is sponsored by Bidfood, Forth, Stint and Zonal. The Peach Podcast is always free to listen to, and to find us, search Peach 2020 The Top Table on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, or in any app that supports podcasts. All of our podcasts will be uploaded to our YouTube channel as well. Now, don't forget to like, rate and subscribe to make sure you don't miss our future episodes.
Podcast from Peach 2020, hosted by Peter Martin.